Well, believe it or not, my $400 1971 skid steer, not the most reliable thing when you need to go ahead and actually rely on it. As you can see by this white powdery stuff, we have received some snow here in Iowa. I'll actually show you. We've received quite a lot of snow. Like a foot. And it's still coming. So it's Saturday, November 29th, I think. And if you watch the news at all, or you live in the Midwest, or I think even like the West Coast, pretty much everyone's getting hammered with a big snowstorm. And we are no exception here in Iowa. So all day today, off and on, while cleaning up the garage here, I have been using the old Hydra-Mac, Mighty Mac, I always get it mixed up, to clear the driveway. And the first two passes, it did great. The first pass, we did about 6 inches of snow. Second one was probably a little bit less. And after that, I was kind of toying around on the parking pad, cleaning some stuff up, getting ready to move some parts around to my shed. And it started running like crap, as you could probably tell when I backed it in. Not 100% sure why, but I think I have a good idea of what's going on. Before we get into what exactly I think is going on, let's take a stroll down memory lane. Picked this sweetheart up in middle of summer, probably about 6 months ago, out of Wisconsin. Paid $400 for it. The Honda engine that was swapped into it was plumb full of water because the carburetor was off of it. We drained all the water out of it, got it freed up, and got it running. It runs. It's never run great. I broke off a carb adjustment locking tab, so I don't know if that's part of it. Like one of the locks for the adjustments, some of these newer motors. I'll try and patch in that footage from when I did that. I also learned the hard way to not try and pull that top off because we actually snapped that adjuster off. That's really cool. Anyway, engine never run perfect. I kind of chalked it up to needing some tuning, but the problem is this thing is hard to tune because I don't trust it unless I'm sitting in it running it. The controls are a little janky. Even when this machine was new, I don't know that I really would trust it to get out of it. It just seems like it wants to take off on you. So, engine's never really run great. I have been using it a little bit around the property here, and it runs. It doesn't like when you get off kilter on hills and stuff. It's just got some fuel issues, I believe. Anyway, so we freed up the engine, put that back in, got it working. We've had some control issues. We had to fix some linkages, and otherwise, we haven't done a whole lot to this machine. And, you know, I've been kicking myself because I need to rely on this. I have this machine and one other machine to do snow, and neither one of them have really gotten the attention they deserve. I've been quite busy with buying a house and redoing a garage, and yeah. So, there's an old saying, if you don't make time for maintenance, it will make time for you, and it just made some time for me. So this thing's running like crap. We're still getting more snow. I need to plow with it in the morning so my girlfriend can get to work. So we need to figure out what the hell's going on with it tonight and at least patch it back together enough to run tomorrow. And then I want to jump into a bunch of issues this week. We don't have a good throttle setup. We don't have a good choke setup. We don't have a seat. We don't have a charging system doesn't work. We need to get it running right, and probably should get some lights. Not sure if I'm worried about that in this video, but that would help in the snow. So, first topic. I believe our main issue right now comes with that guy. I made the big idiot mistake of not cleaning the fuel tank when I got this thing running, and I'll say at the time I didn't have property to store stuff like this. I could not get this thing off the trailer unless it ran. So it was stuck on my trailer at my previous landlord's gym on the trailer. So working on it, not a whole lot of fun, a lot more fun now. But tonight I can't pull the tank. I believe the tank is probably full of goop or probably water because, yeah, you can see right through there. So for years and years, this thing sat outside, and I'm sure water's gotten down in there, and it's probably it was an issue when we ran this thing at my buddy Jordan's house, and now it's become a tenfold issue because of ice. And the first part of the day ran great. And then the end of the day, I had to start running it on choke, and then it started running really, really bad. So I believe we have some water in the fuel. For tonight, since it's already like 10 p.m. and I would like to get some sleep, we're gonna go ahead and set up an auxiliary tank and see if that fixes our problems we can get by for tomorrow. And then we'll dig into everything else. Here is our fuel line. We are gonna take it off just below the shutoff valve that I put in. I did put all new fuel lines on this thing when we got it running. Here. Put our clamp back on it. And I think we're gonna run this fella through here. Do it like it was meant to be. This might turn into more of a permanent fix. Just kidding. Okay, we ended up replacing that filter. The other one had some evidence of water definitely in it. Probably would have cleared out here sooner or later, but let's give us our best chance. Also verified we have fuel flowing out of this tank. So let's go ahead and fire up the little booger and see if it's a little happier. I really don't want to clean the carburetor tonight, but we may have to. Oh yeah, there goes a county plow. We'll see that at an auction yard in about 20 years when it's rotted out and just junk. Seems like we run into those quite often. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, didn't expect that to work so fast. So that is definitely our issue. We need to pull that original tank. But for tomorrow, we are ready to fight some snow. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a ratchet strap or something on that tank so we can affix that a little better. And I will see you guys in the morning. Like 6:30 or so the next morning. Madeline has to be at work by 7:30, so we need to get moving. Moving some snow, that is. Man, I didn't even plan that. That was pretty good. This is the first time in many years the skid steer's gotten to sit inside. Hopefully it enjoyed it. Let's go ahead and get the door up. I got to top this thing off with its auxiliary tank of fuel and see if it'll fire up and do its thing. This I did 2 passes on yesterday. and gentlemen, I have pulled quite the idiot move. And I was trying to get like up over here to clean my sidewalk, and I slid down. There's a curb right there. I slid down behind that into the yard, and it'll still rock it a little bit, but it's pretty stuck. It's stuck enough that I felt comfortable getting out of it and not having to worry about the controls engaging by my leg by accident, because it's not going anywhere. But hopefully our mission was successful anyway, because Madeline's leaving. Oh, she just ran into my four-wheeler. Quite the day over here. Hopefully we were successful, because Madeline can go to work. She is way more competent in my plowing job than I am. Anyway, let's see if we can get this little sucker out of here. So it ended up taking quite a bit of rocking and rolling and even some hand digging to get the machine to start moving again. And then we finally were able to get it spinning around, and I was trying to get it away from the curve and the snowbank because it just would not make it over either one of them. And we ended up finally getting out of there and heading through the yard and got back up onto the driveway to finish up. And we finally finished the driveway and even cleaned up some of the parking pad. Now, if only they made an implement to clean off trucks. All right, well, the little booger did pretty good. Got it tucked away in the garage now. We completed our main task of plowing the driveway. Also went out into the yard, unplowed my trailer because it has a big welder on it that I need to get in the garage here soon, which I'm really impressed at how well this thing does in the snow, actually. It's surprising how well it does with these tires. The only time I had any issue really was after cleaning the driveway and it getting a little icy. Of course, it's a little tough. And then when I got it stuck in that ditch like an idiot, took a little bit of rocking it to get it out of there. Yeah, but got the driveway clean, and we don't have any more snow in the forecast, so let's dig into this thing. First thing I did was get the boom up in the air. Off camera, we made a boom lock out of a piece of 2x4 steel tubing. Got the boom supported on that because I think we're going to end up tilting the cab so we can get to some controls. That might also help us get to the fuel tank. Yeah, which maybe we'll start there. Let's tilt the cab up. Okay, well, tilting the cab on a Hydra-Mac or a Gale, no big deal. You undo these 2 bolts here. Again, I have the boom jocked up with steel. That's the only reason I'm standing under here. Pull these 2 bolts, and then I undid the throttle cable too because it was in the way. And it's mangled. Pull the bungee out of there. You really just take it and throw it on the back. It's sweet having a tall garage. This place has got 10-foot ceilings down here. Man, is that handy. All right, and we're draining all the water off the back of the cab right into the engine compartment so that I can fall down where I need to work here in a few minutes to undo the engine mounts. Lovely. All right, now we can get in here and get this seat pan, which is not bolted in. We just set it in because I knew I would be back in here. Alrighty, with the seat pan out, I'm actually starting to wonder if we could sneak the fuel tank out this way. The damn thing's full of fuel, which is my own fault, which is gonna make this a little harder. Maybe we'll try and evacuate that. I don't know how the thing even bolts on there. I see 1 bolt there, and there's probably at least 1 more back here, and then it kind of sits on top of that chain case over there. I think we might be able to snake this thing out. That'd be awesome, because I don't want to pull that motor. Like that ancient hydraulic line. It's going to be close, gentlemen and ladies. Really don't want to pull that engine. It'd be a lot easier if this line wasn't right here. Ended up biting the bullet, pulling the hydraulic line. Now it's leaking all over the place. I think, I hope. Aha! I think we're halfway there. That thing is full. Golly. Okay, well, we made the questionable decision to pull this machine back outside now that we have it all kind of apart, got the fuel tank and everything out of there, because it is warmed up pretty good today. Most of the snow's melted off the driveway, which is great. So we broke out the power washer, and we're going to clean out the belly of this thing because it is a nasty mess. This is going to be a cold project, but it will help me work on this thing, make working on this thing a lot more fun. So we'll get to that. All right, well, that turned into a whole debacle, of course. We went at it for about an hour. Again, boom's blocked up. It's the only reason I'm walking around like this underneath the boom. And even then, I don't spend much time under here. Got it pretty clean. We're still flushing it out. The cistern in the garage is where we're scavenging our water from. And that has its own 220 pump. Pumps out of there pretty good. Never used the cistern, but it's nice because I'm not wasting my money on my water bill. Anyway, pressure washer was frozen up, of course, because it was sitting up in the shed. So we had to unthaw that. Once we got that going, we cleaned the hell out of this thing. And now we're just kind of flushing it out. All the stuff that I knock loose, making sure it flows out the back. I want this thing nice and clean so we can track down the final leaks. Not final. We can start tracking down leaks and kind of get them identified so we can fix them. It's kind of hard to tell when everything's greasy, you know? All right, I'm going to keep letting this thing rinse out for a minute, then we'll let it dry out while I eat some lunch, and we'll get it back in the garage. All right, Mighty Mac's back inside, and it looks a lot better. Check out the original paint, or what I believe to be the original paint down there. I love the red on the chain cases. Everything cleaned up remarkably well. Check out the floor down there. It's a shame it's going to look like crap within about an hour of runtime. We are going to try and track down some of the hydraulic leaks while it's this clean. That was part of the reason why I wanted to go ham pressure washing like that, so we can kind of see what lines down here are problematic. Most of the ones in here look really good. It's these fellas back here. These two look really crappy. And then these up here aren't looking so hot. So these are definitely on my radar to replace. I think we'll replace those at the same time as us rebuilding the cylinders that leak, which is going to be an upcoming episode that we're going to dedicate just to hydraulics on this thing, I believe. Speaking of leaky things, actually, it's not a leaky thing. It does leak in water, though. Our fuel tank cleaned up pretty good. And let me grab a light. We got Mr. Flashlight in here. And you guys really can't see. We're trying to dry it out. I ran a bunch of compressed air through it. There's a little bit of water still in there, or what I believe is water. But overall, the tank doesn't look too scaly. I don't remember seeing any actual like rust come through our filter. So I think our tank's clean. It just had water in it from this cap, which you can see daylight through. So we need to order a new cap. And I'm going to go ahead and throw some silicone in here. I don't think that's letting in any water, but might as well throw it in there. So I think our tank's good. We're just going to let it dry out and probably run like a product like heat or something through it when we do our first couple things of gas, just to get any remaining little droplets of water hopefully taken care of. I used to be big about cleaning tanks out and using like red coat as a liner, but I don't know. Lately, I haven't been hearing a whole lot of good stuff about it. It's really hard to get your hands on. I think there's like 1 or 2 tanks where it actually caused me some issues. So anytime I can just let them be, I just let the tanks be or clean them out, rinse them out real good, and then make sure you keep fuel in them and they hopefully won't rust up again. So waiting on that, waiting on some parts for other stuff. I'm going to do some investigation and see what's going on in the chain cases. Now that we're this deep into the machine, it should be really easy to get an idea of what the fluid looks like in there. Don't necessarily need to change it unless it needs to be done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, place your bets down below right now. Are these chain cases going to be full of goop or no? I bet they got some evidence of water in them. Oh, there we go. Oh, you know, these aren't chains. These are gearboxes. Just pull this out this way. Yeah, there's some milky fluid in there for sure. Okay, well, good news, bad news. Good news, they both seem to have oil, and they both seem to have oil on the gears. This side has way more oil, but it's that milky mixture, so definitely has water in there. Definitely needs to be changed. This side, the oil looks a lot better. There's a lot less of it. There's some down there, and definitely back here there is some, but not as much as I would like. Although the gears are still moist, so I don't think she's hurting. Yeah, so I thought this was a chain case for sure. That's why I was not too worried about checking this before I ran it. Turns out this is a gear case, and I feel a little bad for neglecting to check this until now. Although it is pretty deep in the machine, they don't really make it easy to do unless I'm missing something simple. These do have vents, so I guess you could pull those out and dipstick it. Maybe that's what we'll do in the future. Anyway, if they both look like this, I could leave them be, but they don't. So we're gonna go ahead and figure out what oil goes in there and get them drained out. And we'll flush this one out with diesel fuel, I guess. I think I can pop the drain out of right there. All right, the milkshake maker over here is making milkshakes really slowly. Got the plug out here. Man, for a 50-year-old skid steer that may have never had its drive gear cases changed. I don't know, would you still call this a final drive? Not really. Just call it gearboxes. Never had the gearboxes changed. That's probably an understandable amount of gear debris. This is like a horseshoe shape, so it's not just, you know, half-inch thick of steel. Anyway, we're gonna let this little guy drain all night on both sides, and tomorrow we'll flush it out. Oh, the joys of owning old equipment. So that's a square little drive to get that plug out. You guys see what I'm seeing? That whole left side of the plug is missing. So there's no way we're getting that thing out in the normal fashion. So this is on the passenger side of the machine, which is the clean side. So I debated for a few minutes on what we're gonna do about that. And I think what I'm gonna do is just pump that oil out of there. This one does not need to be flushed out like the other side. So we don't have to drain it. We can just pump it out the back. And we'll deal with that later one day in 50 more years when it's full of water, and then we do have to drain it out. All right, so I'm finding a very sad looking stripped out bolt over there, nut. No, that would be a bolt. Whatever, square drive plug over there. Decided to just, I could have extracted it, but I just left it alone. This side's the cleaner side anyway, so I just pumped what I could out by hand, which was a majority of it. And now we cleaned the gasket surface up on the top as best as we could without knocking a bunch of gunk down there. And now we're gonna fill it on up. The manual calls for 1 3/4 inches of fluid. So I think that's about a gallon. We bought 5 gallons of hydraulic oil. The original manual calls for a non-detergent 10-weight oil. Very hard to find these days. So I got on the Hydra-Mac 8C forum on Facebook, and a lot of guys just recommended any old hydraulic oil will work just fine. ATF is apparently quite close to 10-weight oil as well. So I don't know if hydraulic oil is a little cheaper than ATF and a little thicker. I think it's better suited for this job. I mean, I did that without making too big of a mess, so I'm gonna consider that a win. So I'll check our measurements, make sure we got them both even, and we'll seal them back up. Alrighty, so we got the top covers for the gear cases back on, and you'll notice the skid loader is sitting, and that's because we were trying to drain the last remaining fluid out of this thing, which is out of the pump housing here. So this is your 3 pumps, your 2 drive pumps down on the bottom. They run each drive motor here and here. And then your top one, I believe, must run your boom and everything. So there is some oil in this gearbox here. It is the same stuff. It's supposed to be that number 10 non-detergent, which I was going to put some hydraulic oil in, but I struggled to figure out where to drain this thing from. So I looked in the manual and it said we need to look underneath. So underneath the machine, we find this handy dandy little cover plate, and we find our drive linkages actually. We also find the bottom of our pumps. Let's see if I can show this. And that housing that I was looking at. There's supposed to be a drain plug there on my machine, but there isn't, so that's cool. But while we were under here, we did discover something else. No, I can't like be in the same area as you guys at the same time. Yeah, it's this one here. So this is your drive linkage. That would be connected to that control box. And you'll notice there is a spring on either side here. Now these are supposed to be set at a certain compression. It's 2 1/4 inches long from end to end. So I was getting ready to check that and set it when I noticed this spring over here is blown apart. So that could definitely be part of our issue with why this thing moves so much when you go to start it. So I need to try and track down, it's like a big valve spring. Need to kind of track down some of those. I'm gonna crawl out of the bottom of this thing to finish the rest of my thoughts though, because it is not easy to film down here. So that's the hole I just came out of. Had this thing held up with jack stands, and we actually put blocks under the tires because I did not want to get crushed by a skid steer today. So another thing, when I was originally working on this thing, trying to get it working, I had posted in the 8C Hydra-Mac, Mighty Mac skid steer forum on Facebook asking about what I could do about this thing moving so much when you start it. And everyone said once you get it running, you jack it up like we did, and you need to adjust the linkages. So I thought that was from the top. They actually meant do it from the bottom through that cover plate, which I don't really want to be under there where this thing's running and possibly moving out here. So I think we'll just continue to adjust it from the top, although it is a real pain in the neck. Anyway, yeah, so we couldn't drain the pump housing from down there. So we ended up just using our little pump, this guy, and pumping it out of that access plate. And we'll show you, it's just some gears down there between the pumps and the input from the engine. It was pretty low, but looked really clean. So we are gonna go ahead and get that topped off, and then we'll be done with the oil changes for this thing. Although I'm hoping it's only because the machine's on an extreme tilt. We are losing a lot of fluid out of our gearboxes pretty quickly, leaking out of these guys. which I'm not surprised. So we need to get this thing set back flat, and hopefully those stop leaking so bad because it's making a mess on my garage floor. This oil dry has become my best friend. I wanted to keep the concrete floor in here nice for as long as possible. I should not have worked on my greasiest machine first in this thing. Anyway, we got the pump gear drive oil topped off on the machine, and everything looks good there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end the episode here because I am A, out of time, and B, out of parts. I ordered a ton of stuff for this thing last Saturday. It's now Thursday night and I haven't received any of it. So I ordered new controls for the choke and throttle, materials to make a seat, voltage regulator, some lights, all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't intending on making this a two-part video, but it's gonna have to be, I guess. So I am really happy with what we got done. We moved a lot of snow with this machine, 12 inches of snow, or over 12 inches, I believe, and had no issues as long as you keep it out of the ditch. So I'm really pleased with how well this thing does, and I cannot wait to do it again with all the little upgrades and repairs that we've done. So far, all we really got done is tear it apart and change a bunch of oils and investigate a bunch of problems. But in the next episode, that whole list that I just told you, plus we need to finalize the controls and a couple other little things. And hopefully this thing will be back to snow fighting glory. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If this is your kind of content, please consider subscribing if you have not. Helps me out a ton. And with that, I will see you guys on the next one. What a machine.